Pancho Tomaselli here, messing around with a soon-to-be infamous form factor BI 1000 bass amp. Soon to be infamous because this bass amp is about to eradicate any other bass amp from the face of this earth forever. I don't know what they're doing with it. I don't know if I can explain the technology, but all I know is that they got it right in terms of power. You know, it's a true 1001 watt amp with the cleanest gain that I've ever heard. People get alarmed when I bring 1000 watts of power to the stage and they say, oh my God, you're gonna blast us all. I'm like, no. On the contrary, I'm gonna play quieter, but I'm gonna allow my bass, you know, to really roll out so people can hear what I'm doing, you know? And people don't really understand that in order to have really clean bass, you need a lot of power. Not volume, gain, you know, power, you know? With that in mind, and like I said, I don't know how they're doing it because it's super light, and it is a true 1000 watts of solid power. I've been trying to clip this amp for 2 weeks already. I can't do it. Very happy with the design, especially for the cabinet. By the way, I'm playing also a form factor cabinet 410. These are like, they look like OtterBox, like the cell phone cases, you know, and they're extremely light. I mean, I can pick both things up, you know, together, put it in the truck and go. It's not like my rig right now. I've been searching for the clean gain thing. So I have a Designs preamp with a 2000 watt power crown power amp, and then the A10 cabinet, you know, lots of stuff to carry. You know, this is a one thing deal. You know, you got your head and your speaker cabinet. You just plug it in. That's it. You go. Has an XLR out. You know, amp direct if you want. You know, if you want to bypass this, just can go direct to the amp, which I actually, for the first time, like the EQ that comes in the amp, because usually they don't really get it together. But this one, I wouldn't bypass the EQ because I really like the mid-range on it. Let's talk about the mid-range. I mean, these guys, they're scientists. You know, they know what they're doing. They've done research to find out which mid-range frequency works and it's suited best for today's bass players. You know, there's not a lot of upright bass now. This is for electric bass. I can tell that they've done research on to see which frequencies work best for today's music and today's basses, you know. I brought these are the 3 basses that I work with pretty much. You know, everyone has a jazz bass, everyone has a P bass, everyone has a passive bass, everyone has a bass with preamps, you know, and all these things, you know, they require different frequencies to make them sound better. We have this click style EQ, kind of like a Pultec thing, which I love, rigged at 500 hertz, 1000, 1.5, 2, and 2.5. To me, where I live is between 5 and 1000. You know, that's where all the punch, all the string, you know, detail comes from. You know, 1.5 to 2.5 is also great for the slap, you know, for those who like treble, which also brings me to the point that it's the first, or I don't know, I haven't seen one, it's the first cabinet that has the attenuator on the side. The treble is precise, it's not too papery like other trebles for bass that I've heard, you know, it's actually, it supplements the note. That's the treble in full, you know. Notice I'm keeping the amp flat because the power, I don't know, like I said, I don't know what they're doing, but it sounds so good. It's just whatever tone comes from you, it'll translate transparently and clearly into this without coloring or anything, you know. There's no tubes, full solid state. I love tubes amp, and we'll talk about that hopefully in the future. Can't wait. But for the road, I've noticed that solid state is the way to go because tubes are just fragile, you know, and it's a shame, you know. Besides, it's carrying 80, 90 pound head as opposed to, I don't know, what's the weight on this thing?
7 pounds.
7 pounds. It's as heavy as my bass, you know. So like I say, you can You can have two of them. Put them, one on your carry-on, and then give the other one, put it on a rack or whatever, do whatever. I'm gonna go quickly through the layout of this amp. You know, of course, input for both active and passive. Right here, they actually marked it nice, so you can see, like, here's your input right here, right? Gain, right? Then you get your tuner. You know, everything is nice and laid out right in front of the amp, so it's easy access. Your effects loop, or your amp direct, in case you just want to bypass the entire EQ, which would be murders because this EQ actually sounds really good. Everything is laid out like an old ampic, meaning when it's at 5 in mid, that's flat. You know, that's when you start taking off, when you start adding. So pretty straightforward, like an old vintage amp. I've been using this amp all completely flat because what I love about this amp, like I said, is just if I can have this only, I would. You know, it's so perfect. The gain, the preamp is tremendous, awesome. Moving along to the mid-range, these guys have give us presets on mid-range by clicks, kind of like a Pultec style knob, you know, on 500 hertz, 1000, 1.5, 2000, 2.5, which in my opinion are very important frequencies that are either removed or that are lacking in the bass. This is where I live, between 500 and 1000. Kick, definition, you know, presence. For the slappers, you can actually go up here to 2.0 or 2.5. 1.5 is also really nice, but I prefer between 500 and 1000. The treble, something to mention actually, because it's very hard to find good treble for bass. You know, people try to give the tendency to do this treble very papery sounding on bass gear. This actually supplements the tone of my note, where it allows me to hear other stuff that you know, that I wouldn't be able when, you know, if the proper treble wasn't there. Limiter, very strong limiter. You know, it's always good to keep a limiter on your head, especially if you're using pedals, octave pedals, distortions and stuff like that. You know, you want to keep that note concise, you know, your tone, etc. And then moving out to the master output, pretty straightforward. The mute button, you hear this beast already. The mute button, which is nice and bright and green, different color than any other color you see here, so you know when it's on, it's on. It's not red like that, you know, or little, or in the back, or like just a little thing that says mute with no light. Like when the mute is on, you know the mute is on, which is really important, because you know when you're adrenalized and then you're going into the gig and you plug in your bass and you know, and there's no sound, if you don't know it's just the mute, it can be stressful. It happened, believe me. You know, so there it is, on and off. The attenuator on the amp, on the speaker cabinet. Let me see if I can show you guys. Most bass cabinets put it on the back, so you find yourself with a guitar looking in the back. This clever guys put it here on the side, so you have easy access wherever you're playing. If you need more treble, less treble, if you want to get rid of the tweeter, sometimes I just rip them off, but not with this one, because they sound really good. And like I said, input for both active and passive. I'm going to turn this off because I'm going to switch the amp around. And here's how it looks in the back. So simple, it's like ridiculous, because they have managed to put everything in the front like it should be. A lot of amps have so much stuff in the back you don't even know what it is. It's just speaker out, direct out, and the power. Like, this is all what you need to do at the gig. You get it? You go, here's the engineer, plug in. Here's, you know, for your cabinet, your rig, your power, on. Here we go, and it's ready. It's ready to go. It's not warming up like it takes like 10, 15, and you're like, come on. It's there, it's ready to go. And look at this, head and amp, all together I can carry them. you know. So I suggest you go and like start saving some money, or sell all the other unnecessary gear that you guys have at home, and get yourself on the list, because there's a list. It's not like these things are, oh yeah, no, this is a list. So you're in it or you're not.